This video was brought to you by GamersGate.com. Download games anytime, anywhere. Skip it up and that up. I'm getting genuinely concerned about this generation of, or next generation of consoles, I should say. Now, I'm going to start off with this because the defense I get when I talk about articles like this, which I understand what you're saying, is I play games, I don't play graphics. You know, I play games for the gameplay, not the graphics. I agree. I rather play Super Castlevania 4, which is a game from 1991, over 90% of the games that were produced this generation. So trust me, gameplay over graphics, hands down. But I'll get why at the end of this video, after I talk about this tweet from Aaron Greenberg, why I keep drilling this and talking about this over and over again with these news articles. I'll explain later on, and hopefully you'll understand. So Aaron Greenberg, who is the Chief of Staff for Devices and Studios Group at Microsoft, tweeted about the resolutions of both Forza and Rise. And this is what he had to say. He was replying to a Twitter user named Deacon Blade. Update from team. Forza 5 is native at 1080p. Rise is native 900p, but the Xbox One upscales all titles to 1080p and they look amazing. Okay. Now let me explain to you why I constantly talk about PS4 and Xbox One games being launched that are under 1080p or sub HD and why I'm so concerned about this. Let me explain. First off, a lot of people say this too. Well, Rich, you know, it's new hardware. Developers have to wrap their minds around it. Any other generation, I would buy that and say, okay, you're right, it's new hardware, it's foreign architecture. These two systems were designed to be as PC-like as possible. x86 64-bit CPUs. All right, they have the unified memory architecture to make it easy so they don't have to duplicate code between the GPU's RAM and the CPU's RAM. All this other stuff. They made it as straightforward as possible. There's no learning curve. From what developers are saying, from what Sony and Microsoft are saying. I mean, Mark Cerny kind of goes back and forth. Oh, it's easy to develop for, and then he's like, yeah, we have these special hardware tricks we do, so years down the road they could utilize them. So he kind of conflicts himself when I watch different videos or read different articles from him. So they already know the hardware inside and out. On top of it, too, Rise is an exclusive game for the Xbox One. Crytek isn't working on Rise for the PS4 or the PC. They only have to worry about the Xbox One's hardware. So that's what they're eking out as much performance as they can, and they still can have to be a sub 1080p resolution. Now again, I know what people are going to say. Rich, I play games. I don't care about the graphics. Who cares? Whoop-de-doo. Games aren't going to be full 1080p. This generation, the current one, not the one we're going into, okay? Or you could say previous generation now because we're so close to the PS4 and Xbox One being launched. Towards the end of, I'll say this generation, towards the end of the 7th generation, developers were complaining that the hardware is what was holding them back from being innovative. You know, we don't have, the systems are becoming stale. That's why our IPs are becoming stale. That's why we can't come out with new IPs because they just don't have the horsepower to do what we want to do. Now we're going into a new generation where there already seems that they're tapping out the next-gen hardware before they even go on our shelves or under our home theater systems or near our TVs. Now, again, like I just said before, I know people are going to say, oh, they need to learn the hardware, but they don't. So now they have this hardware that they know already pretty much inside now from the get-go, and they're already maxing it out. So what's going to happen to all this innovation that developers demanded? That's why they needed new hardware. What's going to happen a few years down the road when this hardware is already tapped out? It already kind of is now. What's going to happen? And like I've said in a billion other videos, I know it's getting repetitive, but it really concerns me. What's going to happen 7 years down the road when these consoles are extremely outdated? How are they going to innovate then? It's going to be interesting to see what happens, man. And every time I see an article like this, I'm going to talk about it. And it's not because I'm a graphics whore. I mean, nice graphics, of course, everyone likes them. You could say all day that you don't care, but nice graphics are a good thing. It adds to the experience. But it's not about the graphics. It's about the fact that it seems that they're going to hit a lot of limitations, I mean to say, with the next generation much sooner than they hit limitations with the 7th generation. It seems like only a year or two down the road, or 2.5 years down the road, they're already going to be these consoles are already going to be totally tapped out. And that concerns me. And it's not because I just want eye candy. I have a feeling developers are going to be very unhappy with the hardware relatively soon. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But it just, every time I see that a game has to be sub HD on either the Xbox One or PS4, it's not a good sign, okay? We already hit the HD generation with the Xbox 360, even though a lot of games on both the 360 and PS3 were sub HD. But the previous generation was the first true HD generation, or first HD generation, I should say. 1080p should be... These consoles, the PS4 and Xbox One and Wii U, should be able to hit 1080p without breaking a sweat. And to see that they are breaking a sweat and actually can't even hit 1080p and have to upscale certain games, to me, is a big problem. Now, the final thing I get to, and I know a lot of people are going to bring up this, and it's a good point. I can't deny it or refute you, is that they had to, balance out cost and performance of next-gen consoles. If they came out with $800 consoles, it would have been disastrous. However, it doesn't take away the fact that developers' demands will go up astronomically in the next few years, and that the hardware of the Xbox One and PS4 may not be able to meet those demands, especially when we're already seeing the shortcomings before they even hit store shelves. So I totally understand that Microsoft and Sony were stuck between a rock and a hard place, but still, I don't know what's going to happen. It's still not going to, the industry is constantly progressing and technology is constantly advancing, and I have a feeling the limitations of both the PS4 and Xbox One are going to become big problems much quicker than they did this generation. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. So anyway, what's your take on this? Do you think we're seeing sub-full HD games for the next-gen consoles because developers haven't wrapped their mind around the hardware yet? Or are you in the same boat I am and just think the next-gen consoles aren't powerful enough to last for a whole 10 years? Alright folks, make sure to rate, comment, favorite, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for supporting Review Tech USA. Have a good one.